Hi guys, as you can see on the screen, we are going to discuss the chapter complex numbers. Okay, so we are going to discuss only 10 problems which will be dedicated for J advanced level. I'm repeating, which will be dedicated for J advanced level. So once you are thorough with the chapters, and I'm sure any student who is in 11th or who is in 12th or who is even repeating the JEE preparation, they can attempt the problem. And one very important thing, if you are able to attempt these problems, or if you are able to solve these problems, or if you are able to understand these problems without any theory help from your notes or any reference book, write that down. You can attempt any question from any book which is designed for JEE Advanced. So it's like a challenge for you. If you know the complex number, if you know your chapter, dare to attempt these problems. So, and once you're done with this, you can say that you know something about complex numbers. So let's not waste much time and move to the problem. Okay, so what do we have here? We have first problem as an integer type problem. Okay, this is a relatively simple problem compared to the problems that we are going to see. So let's see what do we have. And one important thing, please pause this, attempt it as honestly as you can, and then I recommend to approach the solution. Okay, so once you are done, let's progress with the solution now. So we have been given 1 omega and omega square as the cube roots of unity. Okay, so before attempting this, you should have the knowledge of what are the cube roots of unity. Okay, so as we know, one is the real root of unity, omega and omega square are the complex cube root of unity. So as we know, omega and omega square are the complex cube root of unity. And also one more very important, we know that they are conjugate of each other. So before attempting this problem, you should have clearly in your mind that they both are complex cube root of unity and they are conjugate of each other. Okay, so let's proceed now. What is the next line given to you there? He's asking the least possible degree of a polynomial with real coefficient. This is a very important line to note in this problem. There is a polynomial he's going to talk about it, and it will have the real coefficients. Okay, so it will have the real coefficients. Okay, so now what are the roots given to us? What are the roots given? I'm writing it down, all the roots. One of the root is 2 omega, another root is 2 omega square, another root is okay, so this is another root is not 2 omega square, the another root is 2 plus 3 omega, and the next root is 2 plus 3 omega square, and the last root is 2 minus omega square. So what you can do, you can actually, before proceeding, you can simplify this root, this last root. As you know, the cube root of property, one of the very important properties, sum of the cube roots of unity is 0. So what you can do, you can replace this omega plus omega square. So you observe this carefully. When you take minus common, you will have omega plus omega square, and this can be replaced with the help of this relation as minus 1, and you will end up with 2 minus this value will be minus 1, and you will end up with a 3. So mind it, this whole value can be simplified as 3. So what are the roots that are given to us? Let's analyze them. So you have 2 omega. So 2 omega, okay, so 2 omega is a complex root. So now let's come back to this problem. A polynomial with a real coefficient. A real coefficient. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to write a very important property which are indirectly they test again and again. Indirectly they test that do you know this property or not, and that property is a polynomial. I'm writing it here, a polynomial with a real coefficient. A polynomial with real coefficient. Why am I writing this? So that you get the time to digest this concept again. Polynomial with real coefficients will have real coefficients will have always complex roots. Minded, always complex roots if occur. If that equation has complex roots, they will always occur in pairs. So a polynomial with real coefficients will have always complex roots if occur in conjugate pairs. So you need to be very careful with this information. And this is the key point. This is a very key point of this problem, or key point which it wants to check from you, whether do you know this concept or not. And that concept is whether a polynomial will have complex roots in pair. If they will occur, they will occur in conjugate pair. So all the roots that are given to us, if they are real, that's fine. But if they are complex, then they should be in pair. So let's check. So you have 2 omega, so we'll try to get the conjugate of it, and the conjugate of 2 omega is actually 2 omega square, and that is not given to us. So automatically, if 2 omega is one of the root, the 2 omega square will also be the one of the root. So these two roots will definitely be there. Similarly, if you have 2 plus 3 omega, we can observe that 2 plus 3 omega square will be its conjugate, because we know that omega and omega square are conjugate of each other. So these two roots also will be there. And the last we can see that we have simplified it, and this root is coming out to be 3. We have simplified it, and this root is coming out to be 3, and this is the real root. So it can occur in as a unique root, so it need not have any conjugate. So how many distinct roots are we observing? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it will have at least 5 distinct roots. So the degree of the polynomial should have at least 5. See, mind it can have any degree greater than 5, because we know that roots can occur in a repeat way. So it should have at least 5 distinct roots. Hence the degree of the polynomial will be n equals to 5. Now let's move to the another problem. Let's see. What do we have here? Now we have a single correct problem. I recommend again pause it and try it, come back for the solution. Okay, let's start with the solution. So what do we have? I hope you all have read the problem very well. I'm repeating it again very fastly. Z1, Z2 are the two roots of the equation. Z square plus PQ plus Q, and P and Q may be complex number, can be complex, and let A and B are represent the vertices or Z1 and Z2 in the complex plane. Very key important data which is given to us is the angle AOB, which is alpha, and the magnitude of O and OB are equal. So basically there are some relations given to us, Z1, Z2, P, Q and alpha. So he wants a relation P square by Q secant square alpha by 2. So he doesn't want the relation of Z1 and Z2, and he wants the relation of P square by Q secant square alpha by 2. So let's try to connect them. So very first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to draw the axis plane so that we can locate the complex number Z1 and Z2. So let's mark it vertex A. Let's mark it vertex A and vertex B. So let's draw that. Let's call it as A. Okay, let's call it as A, and let's call it as B. And what another information is given to us, that the angle between them is alpha. So what we can do from here, we can get the relation between Z1, Z2 and alpha from the diagram. Let's give a thought. How can we get the relation between Z1, Z2 and alpha? And we know that Z1 is actually the vertex A and Z2 is actually the vertex B in the Argand plane. And this is your origin, this is your real axis, and this you can call it as your imaginary axis. Okay, so let's move. Now I'm trying to get the relation between Z1, Z2 and alpha. So you must have heard the Kuhne's formula. I'm going to apply the application of the Kuhne's formula. And that's a big formula. Okay, so here, because there is an origin involved, we can simplify it very fast. So one simple application I'm going to use here. So if you have a complex number, and you want to rotate that complex number by an angle alpha, if you have a complex number, you want to rotate it by an angle alpha, you don't have to do anything. You just have to multiply that term or that complex number with the term e power I alpha. That is a very, very important result which we learn in complex number, and which is the application also of the Kuhne's formula. So here also we have this similar situation. If you observe carefully, you have this Z2 complex number. You have the Z2 complex number which is rotated by angle alpha in the anti-clockwise direction. I am telling you very carefully that if you want to rotate, then multiply with e power I alpha, and be very careful. That should be anti-clockwise. That should be anti-clockwise. If you want to rotate clockwise, then you multiply that with e power minus I alpha if you want to rotate it with clockwise. So you should know this relation, and by that information we can relate the Z2 and Z1. So observe carefully. You can get Z1. You can get the complex number Z1 by multiplying complex number Z2 with the term e power I alpha. So I just wrote what I have written here again. You can get Z1 by multiplying with e power I alpha in the complex number Z2. So this is a very important relation. I'm going to mark it as 1. I'm going to reuse it to further solve the problem. Okay, so this is the relation of the Z1 and Z2 in terms of alpha. Now let's proceed. Let's try to connect P and Q with the Z term Z1 and Z2. For that you have been given a quadratic equation. I'm writing the quadratic equation here, which is Z square PQ, not PQ, which is Z square plus PZ plus Q equals to 0, and the roots of this equation is Z1 and Z2. So very well we know that the sum of the roots is minus P, and then you have what? Product of the root, which is equals to Q. So this is another very important relation which I'm going to use to connect P, Q and alpha ahead. So I'm going to mark it as 2. So actually the theory part is over. Now everything from here, it's a calculation, and you should, from here you are going to use your aptitude to connect these terms. Okay, so let's proceed. I have to connect P, Q and alpha. So observe very carefully how am I doing it. See, I'm going to observe the term Z1 by Z2 plus Z2 by Z1. Z1 by Z2 plus Z2 by Z1. If you want to analyze it by yourself, I recommend pause it and think, why am I taking this term Z1 by Z2 plus Z2 by Z1? Okay, also pause it for 30 seconds and then proceed. You try to get it. Why am I doing it? Okay, so let's proceed. So Z1 by Z2 is actually e power I alpha. As you can observe, e power I alpha. If Z1 by Z2 is e power I alpha, then Z2 by Z1 has to be its reciprocal, which will be e power minus I alpha, e power minus I alpha, and we very well know that e power I alpha is actually cos alpha plus I sin alpha. This is known as Euler form of complex number, and similarly you know that very well, e power minus alpha is actually cos alpha minus I sin alpha. So with the help of this, you can see that if you add these two, your imaginary part is going to get cancelled, and you will end up only with the term 2 cos alpha. If you add them. So I added these two, you are getting 2 cos alpha, and we need to simplify this to get the relation of P and Q as well. So if you simplify this, you take the LCM, you will have Z1 square plus Z2 square by Z1 Z2. This is a very important relation. Observe this carefully now. In the next step, obviously what you're going to do, you're going to use the sum of the roots and product of the roots to connect Z1, Z2 and P. So you have what? 2 cos alpha equals to Z1 plus Z2 square can be rewritten as Z1 plus Z2 whole square minus 2Z1 Z2 whole divided by Z1 Z2. So with this step, you can completely eliminate Z1 Z2 out of picture and bring P and Q. So one more thing, observe carefully. See, the relation that you want is not for the angle alpha. The relation that you want is not for the angle alpha, is actually for the angle alpha by 2. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace this alpha with an angle alpha by 2. So you should know this property, how to replace this in the half angle. So cos A, you must have studied in basic trigonometry. You can write it as any day 2 cos square A by 2 minus 1. So this will get converted 2 times of, again this will be 2 cos square alpha by 2 minus 1, and RHS is also gonna get simplified. Z1 plus Z2 whole square. So you observe carefully, this is equals to minus 2 as the sum of the roots. So but when you square them, you will have P square minus product of the roots 2 times of Q whole divided by Q. So in the next step, you are supposed to get the answer. Let's see, 2 into 2, you will have 4 cos square alpha by 2 minus 2 RHS. Divide Q in both the terms. You will again have P square by Q minus 2, and this minus 2 is going to get cancelled. So see very carefully. See, you have the P square by Q term. This is what you want. You observe the term that you are interested in, P square by 2, and you want secant square by 2. Actually, you have got them. Cos square by 2, if you send on the right hand side, you will get what? P square by Q, and this cos square alpha by 2 is gonna get converted into secant square alpha by 2. So here we have the term 4, which should be our answer. So answer of this problem has to be the option D. I hope, see, I want to make very clear, this is very important problem because it uses three key concepts. I'm going to narrate that three key concept. One, whether do you know how to apply the rotation in complex number, which you call it as Coni's formula. Second concept, which is want to check whether do you know the Euler form of the complex number. Third concept, he knows that whether do you know the basics of quadratic equation. So these three very, very important concepts he wants to check from this question, whether do you know or not. Okay, so I hope you understood the problem. If not, please repeat, retry it, re-understand it, and then proceed to the next problem. Okay, let's move. Now we have a single correct problem again. So let's observe the problem carefully. Again, pause it, try it, and then come back for the solution. Okay, so let's see. If the question is the alpha is the nth root of unity, which is given as alpha is equals to e power I 2 pi by n. I hope you know this value already. If it was not given, you should have remembered it. And he's telling that there are two complex numbers, z1 and z2. Then he's asking you to simplify this quantity in terms of only value of n. Okay, so there are so many terms which are given to us. So one observation you need to do, the summation is given only in the numerator. Okay, so what you have to do, you have to simplify the numerator. You don't have to worry about the denominator. It should turn out to be in terms of denominator only. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to simplify the numerator. So observe this carefully. This is complex number modulus of z1 plus alpha power b z2 modulus whole square. So first property before starting, you should remember modulus of a plus b whole square. You can write this in terms of individually a and b terms, which is, as you remember, you should remember the formula modulus of a square modulus of b square plus a times of b conjugate plus b times of a conjugate. So before starting, I want to remind you this formula, you should have remembered it. So what we are going to do, we are going to keep the value a is equals to z1, a is equals to complex number z1, and b is equals to complex number alpha power b z2. So with the help of this, we are going to expand this. So you will have modulus of z1 plus alpha power b z2 whole modulus square. So after expanding, what you will get, modulus of z1 square plus modulus of z2 square plus a times. So now you will have z1 and b, you have alpha power p z2, you will have whole conjugate, and then you will have z2 alpha power p, but conjugate will be on the z1. So what we are going to do, see, there is a summation on all these terms. There is a summation of all these terms. So summation on all these terms is also equivalent to summation of all these terms. So basically individually we are going to solve these four terms. Okay, so first let's take these two terms. Take these two terms. So together I'm taking these two terms. So you will have, after applying the summation, p from z equals to 0 to n minus 1, you will have modulus of z1 square plus modulus of z2 square. Now observe this very carefully. Okay, see, it does not have any dependency of p. So what you are going to do, basically you're going to rewrite these terms how many times? N times, because when p goes from 0 to n minus 1, so what you will do, when you put p equal to 0, one time you will write. When you put p equals to 1, second time you will write. It will not change the term because it does not have any dependency. It does not have any dependency on p. So you will end up getting simply n times of the same term, which is modulus of z1 square plus modulus of z2 square. So observe this very carefully, digest it, and then proceed for the third term, because that is the essence of the problem. So when you move to the third term, so now what is the third term? See, you have z1 alpha power p z2. So I'm applying the summation. So what you will have, again p goes from 0 to n minus 1, so you will have z1. See, observe this carefully. Z2 also does not have any dependency, so Z2 conjugate I'm writing it separate from the term alpha power p whole conjugate, alpha power p whole conjugate. So now you can expand it by putting the values of the summation. So substitute the values. When you put p equals to 0, when you put p equals to 0, z1 z2 conjugate anyway will come out from all the terms. So you will have first term as 1. Second term, when you put p equals to 1, you will have alpha whole conjugate. Then you will have alpha square whole conjugate, and so on. You will be going till alpha power n minus 1 whole conjugate. So observe this term carefully. Okay, so I'm going to use one more property you must have studied. I'm writing it on the top, z1 plus z2 whole conjugate. Any day you can replace it with z1 z2 conjugate. So it is applicable to two complex number as well as n complex numbers. So you can rewrite this with the help of this property as 1 plus alpha squared till where alpha power n minus 1 whole conjugate. So if you have studied the concept of nth root of unity, then this is the relation, very very important relation. You must remember that sum of the nth root of unity, I'm writing it on the top, is always equals to 0. So what will happen? This term will be equals to 0. This term will be equals to 0. So similarly, the third term you will get 0. So if you observe this carefully, you don't even have to pick up the pen to prove for the fourth term, which is again after applying summation from p to n minus 1. Observe this carefully. Z1, Z2, you will have Z1 conjugate, and then you will have alpha power p. So when you will put the values of p, again you will get the sum of the nth root of unity. So you will again get value equals to 0. So we simplified all the four terms. So what do we have here now? Observe this carefully. I'm rewriting the complete term now. Summation of z1 plus alpha z2 alpha power p whole square. P goes from 0 to n minus 1. So observe this carefully. What did you get exactly? From the four terms, on the first two terms have the value, and first two terms you simplified it as n times of modulus of z1 square modulus of z2 square, and third or fourth term anyway were 0. So and the exact term which was given to was divided with modulus of z1 square plus z2 square. So if you observe this carefully, these two terms are going to get cancelled, and your answer will come out to be n. So I hope you understood the problem, and then we can proceed to next problem. This one is actually the relatively simple problem from this section. Now let's proceed. Before starting the problem, again pause it and try it, then come for the solution. Now again, before starting the problem, let me revise you one small concept. You can see the diagram that Z1 is rotated to get the Z2 by an angle theta. So you should know the relation. When you rotate a complex number with an angle theta, be it clockwise, be it anti-clockwise, you should be able to write the relation. So if you remember this very carefully, if you want to go to Z2 from Z, when you are rotating this in anti-clockwise direction, so when you rotate with anti-clockwise direction, you will multiply with a constant, that is e power I theta. So this is when you rotate anti-clockwise by keeping the same magnitude with an angle theta. So similarly, if you want to go to Z1, you need to rotate clockwise. So if you want to go to Z1 from Z2, then you need to multiply with e power I minus theta. Why am I insisting on this concept in this section? Because in this problem, if you know these two concepts, then definitely you will be able to solve very easy way. Okay, let's now come to the problem. See, a z complex number is there. Okay, it's rotated to get an angle by an angle alpha to get an z dash. So I guess you can write simply z dash will be equals to z times of e power I alpha. Okay, so because you're rotating with an angle alpha, so that's why you're multiplying with e power I alpha. So this is the Euler form of the complex number. For the simplification in the ahead solution, I'm going to write this in as well as polar form. So this you will have cos alpha plus I sin alpha. I hope you remember this. E power I alpha any day can be written as cos alpha plus sin alpha. Similarly, now let's proceed for the z double dash. If the same complex number is rotated by an angle alpha in clockwise direction, you get z double dash. So what you will have for z double dash, so remember this, if you're rotating clockwise, then you multiply it with a negative angle, with you will have e power minus I alpha minus I alpha. So that Z dash and Z double dash you should be able to get with this relation. Now again I'm writing in the form of polar, So in the form of polar, this will be cos alpha minus I sin alpha. So basically by writing this, you have all the information to proceed with the options. Now since this is a multiple correct, you will have more than one answer. So observe this very carefully. Now first problem, he's telling that check whether Z dash, Z and Z double dash are in geometry progression. How do you get that? You verify whether Z square is equals to what? Product of Z and Z double dash. So if you observe this LHS is actually Z square will be what? Okay, I don't know. So let's start with the RHS. Z dash is your Z e power I alpha. Okay. Now Z double dash, I'm checking for the option A, minded. Z double dash is e power minus I alpha multiplied with Z. So observe this e power I alpha, e power minus I alpha will get cancelled. So you will have RHS equals to LHS. Yes. So you will have Z square is equals to Z dash, Z double dash. So option A should be correct. So if definitely Z is Z dash and Z double dash are not equal, and this is not a special case, they cannot be in harmonic progression. So option B will be wrong if automatically option A is correct. Now let's check for the option C. Now let's see, is he's telling that add the complex number Z dash plus Z double dash. Now you will remember why I wrote my Z dash and Z double dash in the polar form, because he wants to write it in terms of cos alpha. So if you add these two, see, observe this, if you add these two, Z dash plus Z double dash, what you will have, so you will have I sin alpha minus I sin alpha is cancel, right? Minus I sin alpha cancel. So you will have simplified as 2 times of Z cos alpha, 2 times of Z cos alpha. So you can check option C is correct. Similarly, last step what you will have, last option what you will have is telling that to square it and then add it. So after squaring, observe this, Z dash whole square, I'm going to deal them separately. Okay, so Z dash is Z into e power I alpha, Z square will be Z square e power 2I alpha. So I hope you understand this, that if you square it, this will get squared. So Z double dash square, again you will have what? Z square e power minus 2I alpha, So when you add these two, Z dash square plus Z double dash square, so what you will have, Z square common will be there in e power 2I alpha plus e power minus 2I alpha. Now observe this carefully what you have. I'm writing this here. If you have e power I theta, whatever you have, you can any day write it as cos alpha plus cos theta plus I sin theta. When you have e power minus I theta, you can any day write it as cos theta minus I sin theta. So in place of theta, if you put 2 alpha, observe this, if you put 2 alpha and you then add them, so what will happen, this term will get cancelled and you will get 2 times of cos theta, but you are substituting this in place of 2 alpha. So simply you will get what? 2 times of cos theta. If you add these two, you will get 2 times of cos theta, and you put theta equals to 2 alpha, you will have 2 times of cos 2 alpha. If you observe the option D, it is coming out to be same. I hope you understand the problem. Now let's proceed to the next problem. Okay, so this is one of the very good problem, very tricky problem. Okay, so let's see the solution. Okay, so what do we have here? There is a cubic equation which is given to us. It's telling that it has at least one real root. And then for that condition, whatever be the value of A, you get, he's telling you, let's say you got the 4 values. So he's telling that find the squares of all of them, add them and divide by 2 and give me the answer. Okay, so how do we proceed this? Let's consider there is at least one real root. So let's K be the real root. Okay, so I'm assuming K is a real root which satisfies this equation. It means that whatever be the K, it should be a real number. So when I substitute this, I will have 1 plus 2i x cube minus 2 times of, no, this should not be x cube. This should be what? When you are substituting K in place of x, you will have K cube minus 2 times of 3 plus I, you will have K square plus 5 minus 4i, 5 minus 4i multiplied by k plus 2a square equals to 0. So now observe this, you will have all this equation and then it consists of real as well as imaginary parts. So and RHS there is always 0, so its real part should also be 0 as well as imaginary part also should be 0. So what we are going to do, we are going to break it into real part as well as imaginary parts. Now observe this carefully. What are the real parts you have? You have 1, this is the real part 1, and then you have imaginary part 1 minus 6k square minus 6k square, and then here you have what, 5k, here you have 5k plus 2a square, and this is your real part, this is your real part. Okay, now break it into imaginary part also, break it into imaginary part also. What do you have here? I, if you take common, then first term will be 2k cube minus 2k square. Observe this, I we have taken common, minus 2k square, and here you will have what, minus 4k, minus 4k. So and the RHS is equals to 0. So if this is a complex number, then its real part should also be 0 as well as imaginary part should also be 0 for the what, for the k to be real. So let's make this 0. So if you make this 0, you can take 2 common, you will have k, you can take 2k common actually. If you take 2k common, you will have k square minus k minus 2 equals to 0. So when you simplify this, you will have 3 values of k equals to 0. Observe this, you can factorize this quadratic equation and get the value of k. You will get k equals to minus 1, and then also you can get k equals to 2. So you will have 3 values of k for which imaginary part will be equals to 0. Mind it, real part also should satisfy simultaneously, and this will also be 0 for these 3 values. When you put k equals to 0, observe this very carefully, k equals to 0 for all the 3 values I'm going to get. We will put k equals to 0, k equals to minus 1, and then we will put k equals to 2. For all the 3 values, I should be able to find out the value of, a. So this should be 0. So when you put k equals to 0, what you have here, observe this, this was not 1. Observe this, this should be k cube. This should be k cube. So when you put k equals to 0, you will have 0, 0, 0. So all the 3 terms will be 0 plus 2a square equals to 0. So one of the value of a that you are getting is equals to 0. Okay, so we got one of the values of a as equals to 0. So now when you put k equals to minus 1, let's see what we get. When you put k equals to minus 1, first term will be minus 1, second term will be minus 6, third term will be minus 5 because you are putting k equals to minus 1 plus 2a square equals to 0. So you will have a square equals to, so this will be what, minus 7 minus 12, you will have 6, and then now you are getting two values of a, which is what, root 6 and minus root 6. So another 2 values which will satisfy for the value of k being real, a as plus root 6 as well as minus root 6. So last time let's try to get what do we have. When you put k equals to 2, you will have 8 minus, when you put 2 here, you will have 24 plus 10 again plus 2a square equals to 0. So when we simplify, again you will have a square is equals to, simplify 8 plus 10, 18 minus 6, so you will have a square equals to 3. So now further 2 values you are getting, root 3 and minus root 3. So exactly if I would have asked how many values of a will be satisfied so that you will have at least one real root, you would have given me the answer 5. What are the values we have? A equals to 0 plus root 6 minus root 6 and root 3 as well as minus root 3. So now what he has asked, summation of a square whole divided by 2. So all the values we can substitute. First is 0, second is root 6 square will be 6, minus root 6 square also will be 6, root 3 square will be 3, minus root 3 whole square will be again 3. So this is the square of all the values, possible values of a whole divided by 2. So I guess we are getting 18 by 2 and answer will be equals to 9. I hope you understood the problem.